General Albert Johnson, commander of Confederate troops in the West, resolved to attack Union troops commanded by General Grant before his forces could be combined with those commanded by General Buell. Johnson's troops were green, and a march that later in the war could be accomplished in a day took 3. By the time the Confederate troops neared the Union lines, General Beauregard, second in command, was convinced that the attack should be called off, since all chance of surprise had been lost due to the length and noise of the advance. Beauregard was wrong, however. Despite the evidence of Confederate advance, Union generals, especially Grant and Sherman, who were in charge of the camp, did not believe that the Confederates were capable of attacking. When one regiment commander sent repeated messages that the rebels were massing for an attack, Sherman came out to see the regiment. He told the regiment commander to take the regiment back to Ohio. Beauregard is not such a fool as to leave his base of operations and attack us in ours. There is no enemy nearer than Corinth. The next morning, Sherman was to discover how wrong he was. Early in the morning the assault began. It began almost by accident when a Confederate reconnaissance party ran into a Union picket. The assault was soon joined. Both Union and Confederate soldiers fought hard, but the Union line was slowly pushed back. Grant, who had been away from Pittsburg Landing when the fighting began, was soon back rallying his troops. As General Prentiss's troops were forced back, they came across an abandoned wagon road, which became known as the Sunken Road, where they made a stand. General Grant came by and approved of the position, telling Prentiss to hold it at all cost. Prentiss's troops did indeed hold the position. The position that also became known as Hornet's Nest was held throughout the day, holding off the Confederate advance. Toward evening, the surrounded soldiers in the Hornet's Nest, including their commander, General Prentiss, were forced to surrender. By then, however, it was too late for the Confederates, for 2 things had happened. First, the Confederate commander, Albert Johnson, who had spent the day at the front exhorting his troops, was struck and killed by a Union bullet. Beauregard, who assumed command, continued the attack. By then, day was turning into night, and many of the Confederate troops had stopped to loot the overrun Union camp. More important, however, was the arrival of Union reinforcements. With the onset of darkness, Beauregard called off the attack for the night. The Confederates planned to resume the battle in the morning with the expectations of a quick victory. Grant, despite the heavy losses, was equally as confident. He had good reasons for confidence. The army of General Buell had arrived with 20,000 fresh troops. The next morning, Union troops counterattacked. They rapidly advanced against surprised Confederate troops. The Confederates recovered their composure and put up a stiff defense. However, their troops were bone-weary, and the Union troops were mostly fresh. Finally, Beauregard concluded that there was no choice but to withdraw. Soon the order was given, and Confederate troops began to withdraw to Corinth. It was the bloodiest day of the war. There were more casualties, 23,741, in one day at Shiloh than in all of America's previous wars.